Welcome friends to my next video. This is the Meth of Cooking Art and my name is Tamer Wiederspahn. Today we take a very close and detailed look to the non-metallic metal technique I'm using most of the time. You will see a very close look to my colors and the wet palette. So the video will be shorter than usual, but I really want to focus on the technical side before we going on painting this ultramarine. Here are the colors of the choice: Canterbury blue, Hiri blue and white. Let's start preparing our wet palette. This knee pad is the only part I will paint today, but I will show you a logical and easy to follow method to place colors and fade them into each other. I don't dilute my paints very much because I want a strong coverage without any irregularities. Even when I blend them, I try to avoid water down the pigments. Only when I glaze, to give a surface a hue of color, I dilute the paint almost like water. This is Canterbury blue straight out of the bottle, with only a damp brush and the moisture from below. Canterbury blue is the darkest blue from our palette, so we apply it as a shadow to the lowest area of the knee pad. And once more a second layer. Okay, here you see a close-up of the wet palette. The colors you see are untouched out of their bottles. In the first planning phase, where I sketched the first lights on the armor, I really want to achieve the best opacity without any stains. It's totally okay when you need 3 thin layers. I will place all 3 colors next to each other in order of 3 different light zones. Canterbury blue as shadow, Hiri blue as a light mid-tone above, and white as brightest light reflection on top. As you can see, the coverage of Hiri blue was not so sufficient, so we need a second layer. Let's proceed with white as brightest spot on the armor. And once more, don't dilute it too much, you really want a good coverage. I placed the white on top of Hyrule Blue. This is the brightest spot of our knee pad. After 2 layers of white, you can still see how the Hyrule Blue shines through, so we need a 3rd layer. Okay, I must admit, till here it really doesn't look like a metal surface. So what's now? To let it look like metal, we need a smooth transition between these 3 colors. Therefore, the next step is to hide these lines between them. The best way is to mix a transition color out of each colors you want to connect. The first transition color is a mix out of Canterbrick Blue and Hyrule Blue. Even now I don't dilute my paints too much, because I don't want that the line between the colors is still visible. Okay, I have promised you a very close look, and this is the closest I could realize for you guys for this video. Maybe you can see that I switched the direction of my brush strokes. Sometimes I cross the lines and sometimes I make tiny dots. This irregular painting style prevents that you create two new visible lines while you actually try to hide one. When the difference between the color tones you're trying to melt together is too big, it will be hard to achieve a smooth transition with only one transition color. So brighten up your tone slightly by mixing more Hyrule Blue into the mix before. You see, it's a white style color application by changing the brush direction constantly. Now the hard line between Canterbury Blue and Hyrule Blue almost disappeared. There is a blurry, foggy, soft transition now. Much closer to a metal surface look we are aiming for. In the next step we mix a transition color between Hyrule Blue and white. Meanwhile, the scale color Hyrule Blue has absorbed a bit too much water from the wet palette's reservoir. The scale color Fantasy and Games range doesn't stay consistent on a wet palette for a very long time. The medium inside of them is much thinner than the one of the classic scale color or the Citadel range. You need to refresh them more often while a painting session. So let's hide the line between Hyrule Blue and white with the same technique. You see, we have achieved a much more metal look now. Now we can add some additional light reflections from down below. Therefore we sketch the brightest color first and tone it down with some mid colors. We have achieved a smooth, even transition between our three colors. But what to do when the light intensity doesn't fit or is too strong? The good news is you can still always correct your painting from here on without ruining something. For this example, I reposition our shadow color, the Canterbury blue, more to the mid area of the knee pad first. And we proceed with Hiri Blue just like in the beginning. And again, we are mixing our transition color between Canterbury Blue and Hiri Blue to hide the line between them. Sometimes when you still see the lines between each tone you have applied, just like the colors in a rainbow next to each other. It's a good method to make the brush strokes in a 90 degrees angle to the line you want to make invisible. That was a quick example how you can reposition your shadows and lights. Of course, you can change the proportions of shadow, midtone and lights to create different light situations. I'm not sure about it if I keep the knee pad like that, but I think the purpose of this painting session was to demonstrate you the technical aspect of making transitions for non-metallic metal, and I hope that you enjoyed it so far and that it was helpful for you. You can always leave me a comment or a feedback, I appreciate it a lot. Thanks for watching and bye!